It is well known that when D&I is driven by HR without executive engagement, it goes nowhere. So the first step we have to ask ourselves, very realistically, is whether we have it, whether we have executive engagement. Now, having D&I as a pillar on the strategy of a business, having a CEO who's very supportive, and having a very well-articulated business case on D&I and the preamble of your D&I strategy so that leaders can just roll it off their tongue when they're asked about the business case, unfortunately does not guarantee executive engagement. In fact, we have found from our experience with organizations across the globe that even with organizations who are very mature in their D&I journey, very few of the leaders really grasp the real value that diversity has to add. Most are still focused on the social justice issue, and if they do talk about it being a strategic imperative, at most what they are referring to is the awareness that they do have to attract and retain diverse talent from the very diverse talent pool they're now fishing from, so that they can at least get the best of the best talent, and they can at least have an internal profile that resonates very effectively with their customer base that they're servicing. Few grasp that diversity will actually optimize performance and innovation, and even fewer understand the science and the mechanics behind how diversity actually achieves that. And over and above that, whilst we talk about inclusion all the time as being the glue that will make diversity stick together and will enable us to leverage the real value we can get from diversity, very few leaders really understand what it means to behave in an inclusive manner in the 21st century. In other words, what's actually expected of them, what they need to do from day to day, how they need to run inclusive meetings and make decisions inclusively in order to leverage that real value that diversity has to offer. The evidence of the low levels of executive engagement is obvious for all to see. We have been gathering data across the globe, asking thousands of direct reports to rate their leaders on their levels of inclusive leadership capability. And out of the 10 competencies that they have to rank their leaders on, we found that the rock bottom competency is valuing diversity. In other words, their perception is that their leaders do not see that diversity adds real value, that their leaders do not advocate diversity and inclusion as anything other than a social justice issue. So how do we get executive engagement, which we understand that we so sorely need if we are to succeed? Well, the starting point is actually very simple. What we need to do is change the way leaders think about diversity and inclusion. Shift their understanding that this is just purely a social justice issue to a strategic business imperative as well. Help them understand that they can use inclusion as a lever to position their organization to respond to these ever-increasing demands, to do more with less, to change and be agile and adapt and innovate, to help them achieve their strategic business objectives and survive and thrive. This is what will engage your executives. This is what will give them a compelling appetite to put their weight behind driving this agenda. This is what will lead them to drive this agenda across your organization instead of HR having to drive it. And we have seen this change in attitude emerge in many of the organizations where we've worked with the leaders and taken a careful first step to ensure that we've got good executive engagement. And what the global D&I teams say to us in those organizations is, for the first time, instead of having to think about push and pull strategies and how on earth they can get those divisions that are the least converted to engage in the D&I strategy, they are having business leaders knock at their door. So be wary. Before you say, we don't need to talk about the business case with our executives, they are fully engaged. Before you say we've been there and we've done that and we just want to get onto the action of implementation, you need to stop and reflect and ask yourself, do we really have proper and full executive engagement? Do our leaders really view this as something that they want to put their full weight behind?